what did you think of the original Turkey shoot?
I have to be honest, I actually haven't seen it. I'm good friends with Anthony Janine, so I hope he's not listening to this, because I am a bit of a fan of some of his early work. But I don't know, I'm just not one to kind of look up the originals of things that I'm working on. I mean, it was similar with Spartacus. I didn't really go and kind of watch other versions of the story.
And I take it, though, that you've seen the remake that you were involved in. How do you think it turned out?
I have. Yeah, I think, honestly, we made it on a real shoestring budget. So if you take that into account and then see the final product, I think that you would have no idea the kind of guerrilla filmmaking scenario that film was kind of made with. So my answer to that is that I'm really proud of Jon and Jon, Belinda, and also Lizette and Anthony for what they were able to achieve.
You're used to working presumably on slightly larger budgets than this. What was the experience like as an actress working on a film where it is very much a guerrilla type of movie?
Well, look, to address the first part of your question, honestly, I still, even just this year, I've done 3 films, and 2 of them were on similar kind of budgets to this. So I do still, it's just a lot of people are making low-budget films now because they can. And most of the time it's quite unpleasant, but working with Jon, because I also worked with him on X a few years prior to this one, and working with Jon is really quite a different experience. I have such a second-hand rapport with him now, and a beautiful kind of respect between us, and I feel like as an actor, he kind of trusts me and allows me the autonomy over my roles and trust that I'll breathe life into them. So regardless of the budget, I still feel like I'm able to walk on set and do what I'm paid to do, which is to act good at the end of the day.
I'm very keen to know the approach you take when you're doing one of these smaller films, because I was especially impressed with your performance in X, and it struck me that you seem to be applying the exact same principles of giving your very best performance regardless of how much money is in the project.
Oh, absolutely. Firstly, thank you very much for the compliment. That's nice of you to say, and thank you for watching X. Look, absolutely, because your work is always out there regardless of the budget, and I think that real actors wouldn't be actors if they were in it for money, because so often you're doing jobs for very little money, and a lot of actors start off working for free, and a lot of actors deal with unemployment. So it just can't be about that. It's got to be about the inspiration, first and foremost, in the script. And if you feel that it's a story worth telling, and then also, the communication that you're having with the director and then the ensemble of actors as well. So my perspective on it is, when I get the opportunity to act and to do what I love, then I do take every role very seriously.
Okay, now you did X, you did Turkey Shoot, you did an Australian film called The Reckoning, and you just mentioned before that you've done 2 other relatively low-budget films just this year. Now, Viva, I'm guessing that somewhere in your talent agency there is somebody with a spreadsheet who wants to sit you down and say, Viva Bianca, the amount of time you're spending making these small, low-budget films that are going to have small audiences would be better spent in LA, developing your career and working contacts. How would you respond to an agent telling you that?
That's such a funny question. Goodness, like some small films, I think that agents and managers would view as good stepping stones, and it's like every project's different. It really depends on like the quality of the project. Like, for instance, I did a film this year with American actress Elizabeth McGovern and Uzo Aduba from Orange is the New Black, and Maggie Grace, and also Cicely Tyson. So these are like quite prolific actresses of varying ages. And that didn't have a big budget, although it wasn't tiny. But and it certainly was not a big paycheck to me. But what it was an incredible creative opportunity, and my entire team were behind it. It really didn't matter the money and the time that I was spending, the money that I was or wasn't being paid, or the time that I'd be spending on that set away from other opportunities. We all were just totally unanimous in our opinion that it was the right thing for me to do.
And Viva, are you working right now?
No, I'm not. Like I said, I've been filming this year on 3 different films. One was in Louisiana, one was in upstate New York, and the other one was in LA. Right. So I just recently finished on a movie in LA, and I'm currently not working. I guess you'd call it unemployed.
Viva, what is life like for an Australian actress in LA with a rising profile looking for work?
Goodness, that's such a... It's, I guess, a good question. I don't know, because I write as well, and I feel like I'm always busy with whether it's actually working on something, on a film project, or auditioning. I don't feel like I have much downtime, so I can't say that I'm one of those actors that would sort of just be waltzing off to yoga class and having coffees. But I don't know. I'm sure it's a different life to someone who has a 9-to-5 regular job, which I'd be lying to say if I did. I'd be lying if I said I didn't envy at times, like to have that kind of routine and regularity.
And just quickly, you just mentioned the films that you've made so far this year. Tell me what the experience is packing in so much activity in such a short space of time.
You know, acting is an exhausting thing. Even if you are only working, for instance, for a few weeks on a job, the every role is in some way emotionally taxing. So, and that's not even taking into account the travel, which is physically taxing. But in January I was filming in Louisiana, in the capital of Louisiana, which is Baton Rouge. And then about a month and a half later, I was filming in upstate New York, in Buffalo, which was quite literally buried in snow. So that was an incredible experience, actually, to be filming in the snow. At times really difficult to act because we actually shot a lot out in the snow, in the elements. And so, you know, rather than kind of acting, I feel like I was more surviving.
Now, I interviewed Dustin Clare for a lovely little film he made in New Zealand. And when I asked him the same question that I asked you about why do these small Australian films, he said that he wanted to keep at least one foot in what's happening in Australia while also developing his career in Hollywood. Is that your approach as well? Are you consciously wanting to keep a profile up in Australia?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, my hope is that I can at least do at least one Australian film a year. So to any Australian film directors or producers that may or may not be listening to this, I'm totally passionate about Australian cinema and contributing to the Australian film and television industries.
What is attending Comic-Con like? You have such a huge fan base from doing Spartacus, and as you have acknowledged, you are seen in a certain light by a large number of your male fan base. What is the Comic-Con experience like? Do you feel you're being appreciated, worshipped, adored? What's that experience like, Viva?
Yeah, it does. Look, I've been twice so far, and honestly, the first time I was completely shocked because it is more like a worship or an adoration than anything else. And it's strange because I played such a sexualized character in that show, and a character that certainly used her sexuality to, maneuver whatever she wanted to get what she wanted. And that kind of then means that, a lot of my male fan base kind of desire me in that way, I guess, and they make that known. But surprisingly, I guess I could say, I feel like more often than not, when I'm greeted by fans, they're sort of super respectful and sweet. I really haven't ever had a negative experience. So going back to Comic-Con, it's just like a heightened experience of just like thousands of fans who just think you're awesome.
do you feel that, given that you are an out and proud feminist, that there's any conflict between the role that you played on Spartacus and your feminist belief?
Well, I think that's such a good question because it's certainly something I've considered, but I haven't found too much of an issue with it. Although recently I posted something on Facebook, which was like a series of quite sexy photos of me, but it was from a shoot that I styled and curated. And so when a fan challenged me on that and said, isn't this kind of playing up to the male gaze? And I guess I was like, you're right, it could be seen as that, but really my intention with these photos is actually these photos are actually targeted at women to encourage women to be kind of in control of their bodies and their sexuality rather than feel they're at the mercy of the male gaze. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd really like to talk to you now just briefly about what you're doing online with She-Ra Mag and on your feminist convictions. Can you just tell us, just firstly, congratulations on She-Ra Mag. It is a very well put together, very well curated website. And I also have to pay kudos to you for being quite an eloquent writer.
Thank you very much.
So just firstly, tell us what She-Ra Mag is and why you set it up.
Well, She-Ra Mag, our tagline is "The Girls Who Think." So myself and my founding partner, Victoria Crandina, kind of got together about a year ago and agreed that there wasn't really a girls' publication that spoke to women like us, but there was still this kind of overkill of publications, like girls' magazines that were sort of all about celebrity gossip, beauty columns, and boyfriend advice. And we were kind of like, well, hey, television, for instance, is getting really up to speed with this kind of, breaking the boundaries, seeing women in a more complex and diverse way. Why are we not seeing these same kinds of complex representations of women in magazines? So we decided that we would create that ourselves, thus the birth of She-Ra Mag. So it's founded in gender equality, and I guess you could use the word feminism, although we've learnt very quickly that feminism isn't necessarily the greatest marketing word for us, and it certainly can ostracize men, and that's not our intention. We're fully behind the he for she movement, which is to say, the only way that feminism can have any kind of further acceleration is with the participation of men. It's men and women hand in hand saying we want equality. Nearly half of our writers are men, and we do try to kind of not just make our content female-centric. You
want to see femininity as an asset to feminism.
Yeah, well, this is another thing I recently realized was, like, why is it that girly girls and feminism can't kind of gel? And I consider myself a girly girl, and I'm into fashion, and I'm a feminine woman, but I'm also a feminist, and I'm also intelligent and strong-minded, and I believe in equality. So where is the feminist dialogue that includes a woman like me? So I decided that I would open up that dialogue,
Now, Viva, you have described yourself as a survivor of sexual assault. And I just wanted to ask how you've coped with that experience, how an experience like that early in your life influences the rest of your life.
I feel very fortunate that I've come from a family that supported me, and I also feel fortunate that I'm a survivor of sexual assault who was educated, because a lot of people, unfortunately, I feel, perhaps didn't have the education to know that they could speak out about it, or didn't have the confidence to speak out about it. So my experience of it is that when I did speak out about it, so many other girls and women came out of the shadows and spoke to me about their experiences too, and the statistics are really startling. The statistics tell us that 1 in 4 women experience sexual assault, which is a lot, and so I think that if I can speak out, then that makes other people feel they can speak out. And if I have male fans who hear me speak out about it and they admire me, then that's a nice contribution in spreading awareness amongst men and women about sexual assault and how it is a horrible thing.